November 29th, 1970, a cold Sunday afternoon in Bergen, Norway. The air was thin, mist rolling through the icy mountains. A father and his two young daughters were hiking through a remote valley called Isdal, known to locals as Death Valley because of the number of accidents and suicides there. But that day, what they found wasn't an accident. It was something far darker. As they walked through the forest, a sharp, bitter smell hit them, burnt flesh. Then they saw it. A woman's body, lying among blackened rocks, her front completely charred. Her hands were up in front of her, as if shielding herself from the flames. The body was so badly burned, she was almost unrecognizable. And yet, what investigators would soon discover about her would shock the entire nation. Who was she? Why was she there? And why did everything about her seem designed to hide her identity? This is the story of the Isdal woman, Norway's most mysterious corpse. When police arrived at the scene, the first thing they noticed was how strange everything was. The woman's body was lying on a rock bed, surrounded by burnt grass and melted bottles. Near her were a half-empty bottle of liquor, several sleeping pills, and a burnt umbrella. But there was no sign of a campfire, no evidence she had tried to cook or stay warm, just an intense, focused fire that consumed only her body. Around her lay scattered personal belongings, jewelry placed neatly beside her, not worn on her. It was as if someone had deliberately staged the scene. Investigators initially considered suicide, but quickly realized this case didn't fit the pattern. An autopsy revealed disturbing details. The woman had died from a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning and burns, but the presence of sleeping pills in her system suggested she might have been drugged or forced to take them. Even stranger, traces of bruising on her neck indicated possible violence before death. Her fingerprints had been deliberately sanded off, and every label from her clothes had been removed. Her belongings had no identifying marks. It was as if she had erased herself from existence. The police were baffled. They found 2 suitcases linked to her at the Bergen railway station. Inside were wigs, multiple pairs of sunglasses, and clothing from across Europe, all with the tags cut off. Among them was a notebook filled with strange codes, letters, and numbers, arranged in patterns that made no immediate sense. Linguists and cryptographers later determined the code corresponded to travel itineraries, dates, and places across Norway, Germany, Belgium, and Switzerland. This wasn't a tourist's journal. It was something else entirely. As police retraced her steps, they discovered that the Isdal woman had checked into hotels across Europe under at least 8 different aliases, using fake names, nationalities, and occupations. Sometimes she claimed to be Belgian, other times French, other times from South Africa. She spoke multiple languages, fluent German, French, English, and some Norwegian, but always with an odd, untraceable accent. Hotel staff described her as elegant, well-dressed, and secretive. One receptionist remembered her ordering porridge and milk, alone, her demeanor calm but distant. She always paid in cash, never credit, never identification. Witnesses recalled seeing her with strange men, dark suits, foreign accents, quiet conversations. One said she met a man in Bergen who wore a military-style coat and spoke fluent German. Another claimed she was seen on a mountain path days before her death, looking frightened, as if she were being followed. Locals later reported a faint campfire burning in the same area that night, possibly where she met her end. When police traced her luggage, they found more clues and more confusion. Hidden in the lining of one suitcase was Norwegian currency, prescription-free glasses, and a small spoon engraved with a manufacturer's mark traced back to an upscale hotel in Oslo. They also found a plastic bag from a shoe store in Stavanger, linking her to a specific area days before her death. But none of it led to an identity. Every lead turned into a dead end. Then came one of the strangest discoveries: traces of paraffin on her clothing, consistent with military-grade explorants. Her dental work showed gold fillings, common in Eastern Europe during the Cold War. Her clothing style was chic, continental, not local. She wasn't a Norwegian woman. She was someone who traveled often, changed identities easily, and lived a life meant to leave no trail. This led investigators to a new theory: espionage. Norway, in the early 1970s, was quietly at the center of Cold War tensions. The region near Bergen was close to NATO testing sites and secret submarine facilities. It wasn't uncommon for Soviet spies or double agents to operate in the area under false identities. Could the Isdal woman have been one of them? The clues fit: multiple passports, coded notes, disguises, and a violent, mysterious death in a remote area. Some investigators believed she was a courier or intelligence agent, someone who knew too much, silenced to prevent exposure. But without fingerprints, a name, or any living connections, the theory could never be proven. Over the following months, police created a composite sketch and released it publicly. The image, a woman in her 30s or 40s, elegant, with dark eyes and high cheekbones, was published across Europe. Dozens of tips came in. Some claimed to have seen her in Paris, others in Hamburg, Geneva, or Oslo. A former hotel clerk in Stavanger insisted she had stayed there under the name Fenella Lork, but no identity was ever confirmed. In 1971, Norwegian authorities buried her in an unmarked grave in Bergen. Her coffin contained a single white lily, a simple gesture for a woman who left behind nothing but questions. Police closed the case officially as a probable suicide, despite overwhelming inconsistencies. Even the lead investigator at the time later admitted nothing about her death made sense. Nothing. Decades later, modern science reopened the mystery. In 2016, forensic scientists exhumed samples from her jawbone and teeth for isotope analysis. The results suggested she had grown up in Central or Eastern Europe, possibly near the borders of Germany, France, or Poland, and spent time living in several European countries before her death. This matched earlier clues from her accent and possessions, but it still didn't reveal who she was. Even more recently, DNA analysis confirmed that she was of European descent, but with mixed regional markers that made pinpointing her origin nearly impossible. The mystery of her identity remains one of the greatest unsolved riddles in Norwegian history. Over half a century later, journalists, podcasters, and amateur sleuths continue to chase new leads, each theory more bizarre than the last. Some claim she was a spy. Others believe she was part of a smuggling operation. A few insist she was the victim of an affair gone wrong. But the truth remains buried with her, deep in the cold earth of Bergen. The Isdal woman's story is not just a mystery, it's a reflection of a time when paranoia, secrecy, and fear of the unknown defined an era. A woman with no name, no family, and no past, found alone in a valley called death. Every clue in her case whispers the same question: was she running from someone or something? To this day, hikers still walk through Isdal Valley, unaware of the secret it holds. The wind moves through the trees, like a ghostly breath, carrying with it the faint echo of a life erased. Somewhere out there, the truth about who she was and who killed her still exists. But until that truth is uncovered, the Isdal woman remains what she's always been, a haunting mystery frozen in time. This is Dark Case Files, and this was the Isdal woman, Norway's most mysterious corpse.